So welcome everyone, just quickly getting the stream into the chat quickly so we can get underway and going with the intro. So if you are watching post race, just skip ahead to the intro. It'll only be probably another 30 seconds or so. Just waiting for a couple more people to ready up. 423 subscribers, wow. Love it, guys. So we've already got a couple of people in the stream. Welcome. Hello, hello. So hello everyone and welcome back to OBF1. We are here once again on the best night of the week, you know it, Friday. You join us for round 9 of the championship and we head to Le Castellet. Paul Ricard is a tough, twisty circuit that, well, has a reputation in real life, but for all the wrong reasons, and hopefully these guys can spice it up a bit for us. We love Fridays, and, well, we're not joined by Mitch tonight. He's actually racing down, and hopefully he can negotiate the streets of Le Castellet, or I should say the circuit of Le Castellet, a little bit better than a few people. Hopefully he can get off to a good qualifying, because he doesn't often do that. He has to always finding himself charging through the field as opposed to actually trying to qualify well and start well and see where his pace matches up compared to the rest of the grid. New wheel hasn't arrived yet and I've sold my old one, so racing on it, oh, that is going to be fun. We'll see how you get on then, but definitely can be interesting to see how you get on. The usual front runners of Max and Jim, Mitch, Harv, all of the bunch are I'm going to expect to be probably around the 129s. I would say is going to be a fair assumption in terms of pace for everyone is. In terms of strategy, I would probably hedge my bets on a medium to hard and be a soft to hard strategy. I mean, you can see Max has fitted the yellow wall medium tyres to hopefully get himself out and to put a bank lap in maybe, or just to go for the one shot medium quality lap. But you can see we've got the Ratho in the AlphaTauri, a very, very competent driver when it comes to consistency. Not always setting the timing sheets ablaze, but always putting his car in the right positions to score some decent points. And that is what is so crucial, maximising every lap, every little tiny apex and bit of time you can gain. And the AlphaTauri really does make use of that, as well as the McLarens. They always seem to be really consistently doing well. Just putting their car in the right positions where they need to. And that's all you can really ask. It's best to be consistently in sort of the top 6, 7 than it is to be sort of P3 one race and then P9 one race. You know, consistency is always rewarded, and you can see him coming through now. It's starting the final sector, and will be the first to start a lap here at Le Castellet. Paul Ricard it's a nice circuit to drive. It does flow really well. It just doesn't promote that well of overtaking, and it isn't really loved in real life. You can see we've just got an abundance of runoff, which just promotes people cutting the track a little bit. But you can see negotiating turn 15 really well and coming onto this back start finish straight. DRS wide open then as he runs to the line to start his first flying lap, all the way wannabe to the right hand side. Even use this curb here, braking just before the 50 down to 5th gear. Want to hit that curb on the inside, and again here, not the best of lines to take through there, and he's probably going to lose a lot of time again through here. You want to make it as short as distance as possible, looking for the 50 board down to around about 4th gear, then 3rd gear through here. It's a very long right hander, then flick it in for turn number 5 to round off sector 1. It hasn't been a bad one. one, 23.1. That is definitely a very good sector 1 time, and especially for a bank lap as he now comes through turn 7 completely flat out. Might pick up a bit of toe from the Ferrari of side of space, but going to hedge his bets and just stick to the right hand side. Now coming towards turn number 8, the chicane at the end of this straight, braking at the 100, down to around about 4th gear, clabber that curb on the inside, and again 3rd, 2nd gear gets a little bit shaky. Again, you want to make it as short as distance as possible by mounting that inside curb as much as you can while not unsettling the car. Now flat out now through turn number 10. You really got to keep the throttle pin, keep the car pin, don't want to lose the rear end. Into turn 11, a very long double apex right-hander. You got to keep it tight, let it run wide, and then get it tight again for this next bit, and then a short run down towards turn number 12. Just got to chuck it in. It's very easy to let the car step out here. Shortest run as you can. Hook that inside curb if you possibly can. He's just making the track so much longer for himself, and that's costing him time, and that's going to give him a narrow run through turn 14 and then compromise him for 15. And then as he gets on the power, DRS wide open, that drag reduction system propels him down towards the start finish straight, which is a little bit longer, but a 31.1, definitely not a bad time at all. You can see Short Marcus, who's on the controller for his first time. Let's see what he can do. He's gonna 50.5 to the middle sector. That's definitely commendable. It's a good time as he tries desperately to adapt quickly to the controller. It's a very difficult thing to do. We got the Red Bull settling in very close behind. Folksky though, wow, 2.5 seconds quicker with a 28.837. Folksky then coming out guns a blazing with in terms of pace. And Max then settling in just behind with a 28.887, so close behind and on the medium tyres. So really setting some good pace. Let's see what Short Marcus can do for his first flying lap on the run to the line. It's looking pretty commendable, pretty good for a first lap on controller across the line. It's a 30.4, puts him inside the top 5 pretty comfortably as well, around about 6 tenths clear of Broke Gorilla. So Short Marcus looking good in terms of pace. Let's see what main man Mitch can do. He's already invalidated. Brilliant start to qualifying. Let's see what Jim can do. Also already invalidated, and that is the problem with Paul Ricard. You always find yourself invalidating some way or another. Is Max going for another lap then? On these medium tyres, of course, Max, no lean slouch when it comes to qualifying. Taking pole, taking front rows, taking race wins all season long and leads the Drivers' Championship. Absolutely incredible driver in terms of this league. Bit shaky though coming out of turn number 9. Which does compromise him a little bit, but if he's not on a lap, which it doesn't look like he is, he's 6 seconds down in his delta. But a 28.8 on medium tyres, that is an astonishing pace and starter space, going with a 28.7. So less than a tenth quicker than Folksky in the Red Bull. So it is already gearing up to be a very close qualifying session. You can see he runs a little bit wide and has to abort his second lap. But at least with the abundance of runoff, you can see everyone moving out of the way really efficiently, and you don't often find yourself getting in the way of people. UFO up into the top 4 with a 28.9. Such a close qualifying. The top 4 are separated by only 2 tenths of a second. If that, yeah, actually, no, just over 2 tenths of a second separate the top 4, which is an incredible margin in terms of closeness, and getting on the pad that little bit earlier can really cost between getting an extra position and not getting an extra position. 11 minutes left to qualifying then. We're still waiting for the main protagonists, you know, the such of Harv and Jim. Jim, of course, coming in here, guns a blazing, hasn't finished off the podium since his debut a couple of weeks ago for a Friday League. Of course, took the debut win back in Spain. And hasn't finished off the podium since, so going to be looking to keep that streak up in the Renault. But Harv as well, also definitely always up there in the Racing Point. But Harv on the medium tyre, so opting for this alternate strategy. If just maybe a banker lap, he's going a little bit too shaky coming out of turn 15, but then DRS wide open as he hurdles towards turn number 1. Of course, the medium tyre are a lot more durable. They're a little bit slower than the softs, a little bit faster than the hard tyre. They're a nice medium. Which is hence the name, I suppose, of the medium tyre. But a nice balance of pace between durability and pace. Not something you often see people qualifying on, but if you can start the race, of course, if you don't know, if you qualify inside the top 10, you have to start the race on the tyres you set qualifying on, and he goes around after setting a very quick first sector. Just got a bit too eager on the throttle, did Harv there, and finds himself facing the wall. But as I was saying, if you start inside the top 10, you have to start the race on the tyre you set your fastest qualifying lap on. So if you can start the race on the mediums, you do give yourself a strategical advantage ahead of 26 laps here in Le Castellet. But I was on for a good lap there, just got a little bit too eager coming off that final bit of sector 1, going through turn 7, I believe. Here's Max on an outlap, here's Folksky also on an outlap. These two can't really seem to get enough of each other. They've been joining each other on track for quite a while. But Max opting now for the soft compound tyre. So now deciding that he's done enough on the mediums. He's got himself acclimatised to the circuit. And is now looking to go guns a-blazing, find out where his pace lies. And if he can do a very competitive time on the medium tyre, God knows what he can do when it comes to the faster, stickier, grippier, just absolutely incredible tyre that is the softs, especially for qualifying. Absolutely scorching lap times, especially at the hands of Max. Really does know how to hook up a lap. Never perfect. There's always a little bit on the table, and as a driver, when you're driving around, you sort of murmur to yourself that could have gained a little bit more time there, or could have been a little bit more committed there, or I've lost a bit of time there. But he does know how to hook it up to pretty much near perfection, making all the right apexes. And you can now see Max starting his lap on the soft tyres, a 28.887 when it comes to the mediums, around about 6/10 quicker of the soft. So we should be seeing a low 28 coming out of this guy. Completely chucks it through turn 1 and 2, and then through turn 2 just really mounting that curb, making it a shorter run at line as possible. Now hurtling towards turn number 3 and into 4, just doesn't care, completely sends it. The car just grips. It gives him all the downforce in the world. Through turn 5, he's 4/10 up already, a 21.6 to the first sector, swooping it through turn 7, hooking that curb and running it over. DRS wide open. This is already an incredible lap from Max, and we haven't even made it through to sector 2 yet as he hurdles down this back straight and towards turn number 8, mounting the curb, chucking it in, giving himself a nice line, 3rd gear, get that extra rotation, mount that curb on the inside just to shorten the run, and then already to the left hand side, shortening his run and making use of every bit of track. 2 wheels over this white line. Purple to the middle sector again, trying to minimise the steering angle. Jim goes quickest with a 28.6 on the soft tyres, and now as he hurdles towards turn 11, KC goes quickest to 28.5. Some very good times Max is going to have to compete with. In towards turn 12, very long corner, got to cut it back in, and then shortest run you can see, getting as close as he can to this curb, mounting it on this bit just to open up turn number 14 a little bit more, bites it back, keeps it to the left, 2nd gear, bit of a lock up, but makes turn 15 very nicely. DRS wide open, keeps it to the left hand side as to not lengthen the run to the line. It's going to be a very quick time. It's a 27.650, 9/10 clear of P2 man KC. What a lap from Max. That was incredible. 1.2 seconds quicker up on his medium delta. And a lot of people now going to be scratching their heads and wondering how he did that. Jim in 3rd with a 28.6. KC with a 28.5. And Max with a 27.6. So a second clear of pretty much the entire field. And in a league of his own once again. Folksky managing to improve a little bit to a 28.6 as well. So very close from P2 sort of downwards. Side of space only a couple of hundredths off Folksky as well. So very close between the front, the couple of rows beneath Max. His teammate down in P8 still, double top 10 finishing for the Haas. That's something they would not complain about in real life at this stage. But KC in the Ferrari, can't say I've actually seen him often. This could be his debut race, and a P2 in qualifying would definitely be a good way to start your career in OBF1. A great league, of course, very close, very competitive, always producing some good racing. So we'll see how he gets on. Short Marcus in P9. On the controller, very commendable actually, to be inside the top 10. Half still yet to set a lap actually. He's gone out on those same medium tyres, so adamant to set a lap time here. Of course, had a bit of a spin, and that cost him a bit of time as he negotiates turn 8 and 9. Not too sure why that little kink isn't classed as a corner. You do sort of turn. But that is purple. That's a 49.9 to the middle sector. That is incredibly quick and probably up there, I would say, with Jim and KC on these medium tyres. Looking particularly quick then is Harv. Really chucking it in, biting it back through, using the camber to turn the car. That Racing Point is on rails. Hitting every apex with pinpoint precision. Only a couple more corners left to go. Let's see what this banker lap time is going to be then. 5 minutes left. Is he going to stick it out on these mediums and just hope that this one lap was good enough? We'll have to wait and see. Bit scrammy off turn 15 though. That could cost him a little bit of time as he now hurdles towards the timing line. It's going to be a 30.1. That little scrum did cost him, in fact. So Harv might have to come in and box for some softs. He's only going to get one more run in unless he completely cuts the track, which would not blame him for. That's something you can definitely get away with. Let's see if he does. Just go straight on. No, he's going to knock out the 50 board though. UFO getting the toe as he comes to... Oh, that was very close between Max and UFO there. Incredibly close between the two. And it is looking a little bit doom and gloom over the skies, in all honesty. Possibly not enough to see some rain in 4 minutes, but definitely enough to make you wonder whether rain could be imminent perhaps for the race. So we now got Jim, Casey, and I'm presuming Max is going to come in for his final outlap. Is he going to come into the pit lane? Yes, he is. Of course, the new pit lane designed for a little bit more safety. They thought that being on the racing line and braking down a straight to enter the pit lane is probably a little bit unsafe, and so they were correct. It is a little bit unsafe. Doesn't really take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. Mitch as well, still not his set a lap time. So we've got some of the really quick, usual front runners still struggling. So Harv in P9, sort of struggling down there. Probably going to put on a fresh set of softs, I would imagine, and then try and go again. And Mitch as well needs to try again. Casey has left the session. The P2 man has left the session. If he can't get back in quickly, could lose out a chance to defend that P2. Which would be a big shame. We've got a couple of people leaving the pit lane. Very nice of them to move out the way. Let's see what Mitch can do then. Chucking it through turn 1 and then through turn 2. And he's cut it and he's invalidated. Mitch is really struggling to get a lap together. And that is how crucial setting an early banker lap time is. Because at least then you've got something. And you're not having to stress as much now in these later stages where Mitch really could be in trouble. Ooh, very close to a Williams that just disregards the circuit. Makes his own one. Yeah, let's see what Jim can do though. He's negotiated turn 1 and 2 I presume pretty well, coming through turn at number 3. Misses that inside apex. You want to get a little bit more on that curb, but hooks this curb for turn 4 very nicely. Turn 5 mounts that inside curb, really bites it through. Only 5 thousandths down, so still potential to hook it up. Really running on the limits again, using every tiny bit of track he can. DRS open, the rear flap in the rear wing opening to reduce the drag and therefore increase the top speed, hurtling towards turn number 8, down towards turn get 4th gear, 3rd gear for the second bit of turn 9, mount that inside curb, make it as short as run as possible, hooking that inside curb just to help the car ease around the corner. A little bit down on his time, he's lost probably about another 100th in that middle sector, but it's still all to play for in this middle one. Down the hill, you can see the undulation through turn 11. It really does go down, back up, and then back down again. Probably the only interesting bit about this circuit, in fact. 3rd gear, 4th gear again. You want to hook this curb, get it all the way around to really shorten the distance and not scrub off too much speed. 4th gear seems to be the pretty norm to the left-hand side. Chuck it through 3rd gear. He's going to give it all he can. Is he up on his time? DRS open on the run to the line, making it the shortest run. Is it going to be an improvement? Just 700ths up, but not enough to topple KC, who still isn't in the lobby. So Jim, this is going to be his final run over. That is Jim's best effort. He's exceeded too much. So now this is Max's final attempt. He's got a fresh set of soft tyres ready to use at his disposal. Backing up in sector 3. Ready to go, using that momentum. And here he goes for his final run in Q3. Can he extend the pole gap? Can anyone topple him? It's looking increasingly unlikely, but can Max just get that security? Maybe even see what he can do. Hurtling towards turn 1, braking just as that curve ends. A little bit deep through turn 1 and having to compromise through turn 2. And he's snapped and he's invalidated and he's spun as Max scraping across the circuit there. Hopefully for his case, that 1 second gap advantage to everyone. Oh, he's done to join the circuit. Can he move out of the way? Very close to Short Marcus there, who is actually on his lap. Let's go on board with Short Marcus as he negotiates sector 1. A little bit shaky, having to bite it through an unsettled car. He's a 10th up in his time though, 22.8, running it very wide though. Half outside the top 10 as well as Mitch. Both of them outside the top 10. So that is, again, really interesting to note. Harv, yeah, not sure, perhaps. But let's see what Shaw Marcus can do. Negotiating turn 11. Or should I say turn 10 into 11. And now through the final sector, the last one, we're waiting to set a lap. Can he improve? He needs 5 tenths to jump a position up into P9. And doesn't look like he wants to. Gonna go straight on. But Kieran Rees as well on a lap. He could potentially knock Short Marcus out, and that may be what Short Marcus is hoping for, that Kieran does knock him out. And he can have the fresh tyres and start P11 as opposed to P10. That could really play into his advantage. Let's see Kieran across the line. Is it going to be an improvement? Yes, it is. And Short Marcus probably in the best seat in the house other than the pole position. And so Kieran will be starting in P10. Short Marcus in P11. So going to get the fresh choice of tyres and only use a position because of it. So really, really not a bad position for Short Marcus at the moment. Just needs to make sure he can keep it consistent and keep it clean for the race. You are now joining us just in time for lights out in just a couple of moments time. So if you are enjoying, do make sure to leave a like. But Max takes pole, an incredible 7 tenths clear of Cider Space, who did manage to get it onto the front row in the end in the Ferrari, a 28.3, but still incredible pace from the Dutchman. KC then in P3 with Jim in P4, Foxy P5, UFO P6, Denmark in P7, Chris in P8, KVDPR in P9. Kieran Rees rounding off the top 10 with Short Marcus the first of those outside. Harv in P12, Martin P13, Callum Jones in P14, Broke Gorilla P15, Ratho with his early pace setting only putting him in P16, Firkin in P17, Wumax P18, Mitch and Golden Wolf both unable to set a time in today's qualifying. 3 tenths up and invalidated, not a bad effort, I will take that. And you're in a very good position, Marcus, that you get to start on the fresh tyres, and you've only really lost about 1 or 2 positions. So not at all a bad position to be in at all. Make sure to push and give it a your all. And it's very, very wet. So it looks as though my predictions were correct. And that is a very, very wet race. Doesn't look like the conditions are going to change either. So we're here in France and it's wet. So probably the only way you can spice up a French Grand Prix is to add a bit of sprinkle to it. So this could be either a very, very good race or a very, very chaotic race. I remember my first race I did with OBF1 was the first race of the league. It was Australia in the wet. And, well, probably went as good as you can imagine. But we go green for the formation lap. Then ahead of 27 laps. We're on the inners. So it doesn't look to be perhaps too wet. Anyone opted for the full wet conditions? No. Everyone going for the intermediates. Of course, the intermediates are basically wet tyres, but they just have a less extreme groove, so they don't displace as much water, and they are you have a bigger contact patch in terms of rubber on the circuit. So for conditions like these, they are definitely optimal, but they still do the job that the wet tyre does, which is to displace all the water and spray it back behind you, which is why it's very hard to see in the wake of a Formula 1 car. You can see even in just these conditions it's very hard to see. Max will lead around. Let's see what he can do in the wet. He's absolutely incredible when it comes to the dry running, but perhaps in the wet may struggle a little bit. We haven't really seen what Max can do in the wet too often. Let's hope it's reminiscent of the Max Verstappen in real life. And he can pull off an even better performance. Side of Space and KC though, they're both going to be wanting to get themselves involved. Jim is going to want to extend that podium streak. But UFO has been disqualified, potentially with contact with Side of Space there. That's going to leave them with some very cold tyres ahead of today's Grand Prix. And especially in the wet, it's so crucial to have your tyres into that optimum temperature window. Because if they're a little bit out, then they do really get cost, and it's just magnified in the wet. You need the tyres to be in a good window. If they're too cold, you've got no grip. If they're too hot, you're just turning. There's nothing happening. You get on the power, the wheels just spin. Everything is exaggerated tenfold in the wet. Any mistake is exaggerated, where you can lose probably 2 positions, you know, a lot of time from one mistake. You can gain a lot of time just from taking that slightly different line. So the wet is all to play for. Everyone needs to spend these first couple of laps just taking it round slowly, finding the grip, and that is where you may see a lot of people just cut their way through the field because they've found grip that other people haven't. But while Max lines himself up, we're still waiting for a few people. Golden Wolf still very far back. So Max could be waiting for a little bit longer. 27 laps of a wet French circuit. We get ready for 5 red lights very shortly. Just waiting for Mitch Womax, or I should say Mitch, Firkin and Golden Wolf all to line up onto the grid. And then the green flag will be waved and we can get underway in racing for round number 9. Here we are then, the green flag has been waved. We get ready for the 5 red lights to start illuminating your screen. Any minute now. And here we go then. The 5 red lights are coming along, everyone's revving up. We go ahead and we're underway for the French Grand Prix, and it's a pretty tentative start from everyone. A great start from Folksky in the Red Bull, already ahead of the Ferrari now as they turtle towards turn 1. The Renault on the outside, looking to go around the outside. Is that Jim already making up the positions from 4th up to 2nd in a great wet start then, and chasing after Max, and it's very chaotic at the back. They're all trying to funnel their way through. There's a Denmark, no, that's Kieran Rees round at the start. Everyone trying to funnel their way through. We've got a safety car already. So the safety car being deployed. Luckily no retirements, but probably just an incredible amount of debris scattered amongst the circuit. That could give Kieran a good chance to maybe get his front wing changed, but a safety car has been deployed, so everyone having to slow down. A great start from Jim though, up 2 places off the start, just got his foot down and went, and now finds himself in a good position. Fosky as well up a couple of positions. He just launched off the line compared to everyone else. Sider went down. He lost a lot of positions, probably because of those cold tyres. Just couldn't get the grip off the line. Harv up 5. Mitch up 5. A lot of people up a lot of positions, and that is how crucial the start is. And they'll have another rolling restart in a few moments' time when the safety car decides to come in. Hopefully it won't be too long, probably only a couple of laps or so. But Max finding it very difficult even under the safety car, going really wide through turn 10. Which certainly is less than ideal. But the safety car stopped on the track just on the exit of turn number 2, waiting for Max to come round in. They can take them around at a little bit slower pace. Let's see how many people actually come in then to the pits. Jim's put it in neutral. He's going to start drifting around, sliding and drifting. Harv into the pit lane. So what's happened to Harv? Has he sustained a little bit of wing damage? Of course, wings they do help, certainly, especially in the wet. They give you the aerodynamics in order to push the car to the circuit. That is a wing change, so he has sustained a bit of damage. Some fresh intermediates going on. Doesn't make as big of a difference. The wet tyres are often very, very durable. but he's going to lose quite a bit of time, and that is going to promote Mitch, already up 9 places and into the points. Hasn't really done anything, just kept his nose clean. And that is the case with Mitch. He always puts himself in the right positions. You have to create your own luck when it comes to Formula 1, and he does that week in, week out. Got to be at the right place at the right time. Let's see what he can do off the restart. But it's going to be very interesting between Jim and Max, because Jim looks incredibly quick. Of course, Swans are incredibly quick in the water, very agile. So Jim harnessing that energy and transferring it out there today. Gracefully dancing around the circuit in his Renault. Of course, Renault, the French outlet team. Now, of course, rebranded Alpine, still French. But Renault going to be wanting to impress at their home circuit. So a win would definitely be the best way to go about doing that. But the safety car hopefully going to come in this lap. Actually, probably not, actually, because Kieran is quite far back. So probably one more lap, I would say. Hopefully they can hurry up and get around so we can go back under green flag racing, because yeah, no one likes being stuck under a safety car. We like it when we're racing. Jim, you can see, is eager to go. He wants to get going and try and get past Max. Yeah, just waiting for Kieran. So we are going to get one more lap under safety car, despite everyone being bunched up. Yeah, definitely people to note would be Mitch. See how he can cut his way through the field in the Renault. Callum Jones, also no slouch. Side space on the redemption to try and get himself back up. Denmark has had a great start, but definitely the main focus between Max and Jim. How can these two tyrants at the front cope? Max, of course, absolutely scorching when it comes to the dry weather pace. Maybe a little bit lackluster potentially in the wet, but we'll have to wait and see. Haven't had enough chance to see what everyone's pace is like. Of course, we had one corner of green flag racing before the safety car was called. As Martin has been given a 5-second penalty for a severe collision with Callum Jones, which is definitely strange, and that has sustained damage to the front wing of that Mercedes. It is indeed very wet, Lewis. There's it is a little bit wet, just slightly wet. Not the most extremes of wet, but definitely wet enough to notice. Of course, like you'd know, anything to compare it to. Safety car is in this lap, so we are getting back under racing in just a few corners time. 4 corners to be precise. And what can Jim do to try and launch the offensive against Max? Definitely going to be in his best interest to do that. He does need to get him while he's vulnerable, and the best place to do that would be at a safety car restart. But Max controls the pace, you can see, trying desperately to get some temperature into those tyres. Weaving around, using the friction, wheel spinning, braking. Anything he can do to get the temperature in. But as soon as the safety car light goes out and the safety car's into the pit lane, it is under Max's judgment to punch it whenever he wants, and he's probably going to leave it as late as he can as to avoid the wheel spin. But Jim and Foskey both eager to get going. At the final corner then, has Max punched it? Indeed he has. Very tentative on the throttle though, does not want to punch it too early, and we're back under green flag racing. It's a great restart from Jim though to keep Max honest as they hurdle towards turn 1. Once again he's going to look to the inside, Max half-heartedly defending, but now they're all going to try and get their way through turn 1. The other flags already through sector 3. There's been a crash. It looks as though Firkin has gone off, but Jim hasn't been able to launch the attack. Sider already past Denmark and looking for the move on Foskey. He's closing. Can he go for it towards turn 3? No, he's going to have to back off. but they're going to need to acclimatise themselves quickly. Who can adapt? That is going to be the big question. Foski seems to be struggling, and Cyberspace all over the back of him. So now towards the straight, just needs to get on the power as quickly as he can, use the overtake, and he goes very, very wide. That is a big costly mistake for Cider. Luckily, Chris isn't that far, or isn't that close towards the back of him, so he's able to get away with that one, but is going to want to recover pretty quickly. And Denmark on the back of Chris as well. Mitch already up a position, up into P9. You can definitely tell who the ones to adapt are quickest at. Looks like the front two, Max and Jim, have taken off about 1.5 seconds. Here's Denmark getting himself back into the top 5, up the inside of turn number 10. Very, very sketchy to do, but he's claimed the corner, and the Williams now looking back up the inside to send it. But Denmark just taking the race in line. Really, really settling into this race nicely and trying to find a foot. Cider still on the back. Yellow flags through sector 3. Looks as though Broke Gorilla has had a bit of an off towards turn 10, which is slightly a bit of an issue, but he's managed to get himself going again, luckily. Jim's still keeping Max honest. He just needs to stay with him. He's used a little bit more ERS as Max, so Jim can definitely maybe just try and siege him out. Max with a faster slap. Cider still keeping him honest, and Jim closing. Probably just going to try and wait for a mistake. Of course, no DRS in these wet, treacherous conditions. And Mitch up another place down towards turn 1, up into the top 8 already, so showing some really, really good pace as he adapts well to the beginning of this restart. Cyberspace as well, you can see he is quicker, and he just drives up to the back of this Red Bull, but it's so difficult to overtake in the rain. Going offline just that slight bit can really cost you in terms of your braking performance. And even you can see the darker patch in the track is where it's drying. So going off that onto the shiny wet bits really does compromise you a lot. So you are heavily reliant on other people's mistakes. And there's yellow flags through sector 1 again. KC, the man who started P2, is already round and really struggling to get himself going in the wet. So an impressive quali debut, but hasn't really converted it into anything special in the race, which is definitely unfortunate. But virtual safety car as Broke Gorilla has retired from the session, so he's had a big off. Further, I believe maybe coming on to the straight, and that is going to cost him dividends. But this is going to allow everyone to slow down, recharge their batteries, get some juice back into the cars, save a bit of fuel, what have you, cool the car down, reevaluate the situation. They have to keep it to a 40% race speed delta, so they can't exceed that. They have to back off. Max really backing off, and Jim wanting to get going. Interesting to see when safety car ends, but it's going to be in Jim's best interest to get himself going. He's weaving around Max, trying to get some temperature. He's going to back off, trying to catch Jim out. When are we going to go back into green flag racing as Callum Jones is into the pit lane? So coming down. But Jim just needs to try and launch it, time it right. Timing is key when it comes to safety car restarts. They both have punched it, and we're back under green flag once again, and it's a pretty even restart for Jim and Max. So pretty much just a stalemate. Cyberspace desperately looking to the inside of Foski, though can't quite find it, and that's allowed Denmark to drive up to the back of him. So Foski really eager to hang on to this podium place, and he's now got 2 charging cars behind him, maybe even 3 make that, as Chris and maybe even KVDPR and Mitch all close their way back up. So all eager to get themselves onto the podium. All of them do have that chance if Foski or Cider make a mistake. But the 2 at the front, absolutely incredible pace. 5.5 seconds clear of Foski already. We're at this stage in the race. It's just a mobile chicane that they just can't seem to negotiate. But fair play. He's hanging on well. He's got constant pressure on the back of him. And that train is now extending to around about a 5-car train at fight for the podium this long. Cyberspace looking a little bit shaky in the dirty, turbulent air of the Red Bull in front, which is not going to help him. But Foski just quick enough where he needs to be quick. Gets on the power efficiently, a little bit shaky, but just straight to the exits. That's what you need to do. You need to go in deep and then bite it back. Potentially not that deep, because that could leave you vulnerable to an attack from a McLaren. Cyberspace taking the advice a little bit too literally. But you want to go in deep, you want to bite it back, you want to have a straight exit, so not to invite the rear wheels to start spinning. Around about 1,000 horsepower in these cars, and that's all going to the 2 rear wheels, and especially in the wet that can be absolutely very, very sketchy. And now everyone onto the back of this little fight. Mitch going to try and negotiate his way through. He's no slouch when it comes to overtaking in the wet. He's proved that in the last 7 laps, as Harv gets himself up into P9 as well on his teammate. Isn't going to fight that one too harshly, I wouldn't imagine. But Jim has actually fallen a little bit off Max. 1.1 seconds is now the gap, so Max slowly stretching his legs. As Casey has had another off. With Denmark pressing the button, launching the attack on Cyberspace, but just can't quite close. Cyberspace looking to the inside. Denmark isn't going to go for it, but he is going to send it around the outside. Try and use the clean part of the track, use the grippy part of the track. It has turned into a half-decent overtaking opportunity, but Cyberspace is going to keep his foot in. But that was a very good effort from the McLaren there to at least try and get himself around the outside. Very, very good attempt. Late on the brakes, use the grippy karting line where there's less rubber on the outside. And he at least tried it, but Cyberspace just holding on that little bit extra, and that's actually allowed Foski to have a bit of breathing room. 1.4 seconds now the gap. And I did say any bit of battling is just exaggerated. That would probably only cost you maybe about 4 or 5 tenths in the dry. It's cost him around about a second now in the wet. So Mitch as well, trying to get his way up. Started in P19, now P8. Denmark going very deep though in the McLaren. That's going to allow him to get overtaken from Chris, who gets himself up into P5. So every mistake just exaggerated so much. Probably only went offline by a tiny amount. And Mitch as well getting himself past the Haas and up into the top 7, charging after Denmark in front, who after turning an offensive in on Cyberspace, he now needs to look forward and try and get past Chris, who's also looking very shaky and could leave him under pressure. Down the inside, thinks better of it though. I'm going to look for the outside, turn to the inside, but can't keep the power down and keep the foot in. Looking for the cutback, maybe could just drive it up the inside if he gets the opportunity to have a look. But it's very point precision. He's all over the back of him through turn 7. No DRS of course, but he's got the slipstream. He's going to have the overtake. Maybe could replicate the move. He tried to pull on the Ferrari. He's a lot closer than he was on the Ferrari. He's going to dart to the inside and send it. Chris going to give him the room and compromise his line. Maybe Denmark could look for a cutback, but this is all allowing Mitch to maybe get a good drive and look for the both of them. And Denmark turning these overtaking opportunities, and he may have to start looking backwards, but Denmark driving alongside Chris, setting up a cutback, maybe trying to keep the foot in around the outside. Yes, he is. The Williams gets a little bit shaken, and that is going to allow Chris to go around the outside, and he's going to lose the position to not only Denmark, but also Mitch as he's sent wide offline. There's another safety car as Harv has crashed. Where has Harv crashed? Looks as though he's had an off coming out of turn number 10. And that is him in the wall over there. Big crash. Big shunt through a very high speed corner. But what a nice little race between there. And Max and Jim both piling their way into their pit. Folks, he's going to stay out to take the race lead. Sider's coming in. Denmark's coming in. Is Mitch coming in? You bet Mitch is coming in. So Foski is the only one not to pit. Confident in these tyres. Of course, in the wet, you don't need to change tyres mandatory. It's not mandatory to change tyres. But it's going to be very difficult to take those to the end. So he's going to bite the bullet and take his free pit stop. Max coming out in P4, Jim coming out around about P5 as well. So they are still neck and tongue on track. But a big shame for Harv there. He was driving pretty well and did put himself in a nice good position for some good points, but just fell a little bit short, and one mistake again can cost you. Such a very easy place to do it as well. Turn 10 is definitely a victimizer of a lot of people, especially in the wet at Paul Ricard. Getting over that curb a little bit too much just send the rears spinning, and you find yourself in the wall very quickly before you can blink and try and correct it. But 3 cars deciding not to pit, a couple more as well deciding not to pit. We'll actually take a look at who decided to pit. So 3, 4, 5 cars deciding not to pit. Golden Wolf, Martin, KVDPR, Chris and Fotsky all deciding not to pit and taking the effective race leads. So they're going to be on 8-lap old intermediates, which at the moment won't be feeling too much in the way of tyre degradation and should feel fine maybe for another 8 laps or so. But will definitely slowly start to wear off, and Max and Jim will start to fill in their own once these tyres start to scrub in and warm up a little bit more. But it has bunched the grid back up and could give Jim another look on Max, as he did fall off a little bit towards the later stages of that first stint. And yeah, just a couple of mistakes from Jim. Once you lose sight of the guy in front, it is hard. You need to have him in front as someone to push yourself with. Once you've got someone in front of you, very close in front of you, you almost unlock a primal instinct to go fast. You want to go faster. You push yourself to go faster. Being in the tow as well does help. And once you lose sight of that, it just demoralizes you. And it's hard to stay with him at that point. But Jim's now got a reset. He's got his confidence boosted back up. And you can see showing his nose to Max, playing the mental game already. Showing his nose. Very consistent drives from the both of them so far. 2 Tyrants at the front. Pretty much unmatched by anyone else in terms of raw pace. Probably 6 seconds clear, I believe, of the fight for P3 after 8 laps. So that is around about... what is that? 7.5 tenths a lap quicker. My maths isn't completely dodgy. One moment. It is 0.75. God, I am clever, aren't I? But yeah, about 7.5 tenths a lap faster. On average. Of course, some laps will be slightly off, some will be. But nonetheless, hopefully we can have the safety car in pretty quickly. We're just waiting for KFC and UFO. Actually, no, not KFC. He's already established amongst the crap. We're waiting for UFO, Firkin, and Wumax all to close up. And if they don't do it quickly, we might not get the safety car in this lap. They need to get their foot down and get going if we want a safety car in this lap. But safety car is in this lap. We luckily managed to do it. So Fotsy gets to control the pace. So we'll back everyone up. You can see the safety car peeling into the pit lane. Max and Jim both wanting to get off to a good start, but Fotsky's really left himself a massive gap there, kept everyone napping, and he's opened up already a second gap back to everyone else, and Jim launching the attack on Max now to the outside. KVDPR sort of the one in the way, but Jim trying to squeeze him. He's going to be on the outside of turn 1. Max is going to send it on his teammate and get out the inside of his teammate, but Jim going to keep it on the inside. He's going to get the both of them, and if he can get a car between himself and Max, that is going to be huge in terms of the race. But here comes KVDPR launching the counter attack on the outside of turn 3. This could not be a better restart. Can Jim keep it again on the outside? He's going to try and keep the foot in and get the inside for turn number 5. Has he made the move stick? KVDPR tries to keep his foot in. Max is going to send it. There's contact between the two Hasses as KVDPR turns in and Max trying to send it, and that has really played into the hands nicely of Jim here, and Max got himself through. But it's all kicking off now as Cyberspace is getting through. They're going to run 3 abreast nearly as Martin tries to get himself involved as well. But KVDPR falling backwards, trying to fight with the big guys. And Cyberspace up the inside and into the top 5. And Martin going to try and follow him through. He saw a gap that opened up and he's going to go around the outside. Jump over the curb though. The Haas giving him absolutely nothing to play with. And that has allowed Jim to open up a 1 second gap. And that is the type of racing you like to see from Jim. Got his opportunities right. Very opportunistic move there to get them both. And he's going to have to thread the needle as Denmark maybe through the middle. KVDPR turns across. Bit of contact. Martin holds it very well. Again, another bit of contact. He holds that even better. And they're still going to run side by side. Denmark trying to funnel a way through. but he doesn't really know who to follow through. Maybe go for the double switch back on the both of them. Martin goes sideways, and that is going to hit into him. He sent a bit of carbon fibre flying. That may have caused a bit of damage to the McLaren as well, and they're going to run nearly 4 abreast towards turn number 14. But the Racing Point peeling off, and into the pit lane they go. Mitch trying to find a way through. But some incredible stuff there as Max is slowly starting to claw back at the time from Jim, who's got himself into a net race lead. But Chris trying to claw back some time to Folksky. Both, of course, not necessarily needing to pit, but it would be recommended for them to pit eventually at some point. Yellow flags through sector 1. It looks as though Golden Wolf has had a bit of an off. But Chris clawing back the time to Folksy, who did have a great restart. And this is only going to invite Jim to get through. If Jim can negotiate these guys quickly, that really will open up a gap for him and Max. So that's going to be in the back of his mind to try and clear these two quickly. He's got a lot more pace than them both. But it's just a case of driving up to someone is one thing, getting past is another. So it's just how quickly you can negotiate through, and no slouch to overtaking his Jim. It looks a little bit dry now. It appears to have stopped raining out there, in fact. So maybe start to dry up. He's going to look to the inside of Chris, but can't quite get it all the way up. And now Max is closing up on them both. And in fact, has that what Chris and Folksky's thought about? Have they thought maybe the drive's going to come through? Here's Max on the inside, trying to look for the inside of Jim. And again, through turn 14, he's going to want to get that position back, because Max does not wait around. And there goes Jim down the inside of the Williams. Really going to send it, but there's a VSC. That's been brought out probably at the worst time. And Mitch been given a 5-second penalty for a collision with Denmark. Big shame. But the pit window open now. And it is looking a lot drier than it was a few moments ago. It is. It does look indeed like it's drying. It looks a lot drier now than it did a few minutes ago. It stopped raining. And that could play nicely into the hands of Folksky. Maybe you could see a couple of people maybe even gambling and going for the slicks. Indeed, we are seeing a couple of people gambling and going for the slicks. When we see DRS enabled is usually a big indication that you should go for the slicks, but that is a big gamble from short Marcus Martin, Rumax and KVDPR, who's going to struggle to get those tyres warmed up, but if they can get them into that window, that is going to play nicely into their hands. And of course, with these guys, these couple of guys pitting, costing themselves track position, we are back under racing once again. Rumax gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under VSC. Max trying to get off to a good start. 2 by 2 they go. Chris on the inside of Folksky and Max on the inside of Jim as they come towards turn 8. Can Jim keep it on the outside of Max? He's going to try maybe follow the Red Bull through and keep him pinned. The Ferrari trying to follow through as well, but Max is going to go around the outside of the both of them and even get the Red Bull in the process. And Jim now pushing the overtake button to try and get around the outside of the Red Bull. These inters are not going to be very grippy, especially in the drying conditions, but Jim is going to keep his foot in, take the grippier line around the outside of the Red Bull, and he's even going to cost him a place to the Ferrari, who's going to go down the inside and take the Red Bull as well. But Jim now needs to get through on Max. He's lost a little bit of time because of that, and even the position. So maybe it is time for slicks. Of course, you can see still a little bit damp, still a bit of spray being kicked up, but we'll have to see the base of everyone else. Let's see if these guys are going to come into the pit lane. They are, so it is dry enough for slicks. They are gambling. Chris with a 5-second penalty, the race leader with a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and KVDPR has in fact crashed exactly where Half crashed. The exact same mistake has happened, and the VSC has been brought out, so all these guys get essentially a free pit stop, and Side of Space is going to stay out, interestingly enough. Which is very strange. They're all going for the medium tyre. I would say is a safe bet to the end of the race. 13 laps shouldn't be too difficult. We're now halfway through. And now the pace is going to be a lot quicker, so it will go even quicker this second half of the race. But if VSC now out, Max, Chris and Jim all coming out in the same order, and Jim has had an incredible restart, really timed that to perfection, and now looking to the left hand side of Max. He's going to try and go around the outside of turn 3, but Max is going to go in a little bit deep just to cover off the corner, and it's now a fight between these two as Chris has got a 5-second penalty. Maybe can hold his own in the wet. Let's see how he fares in the dry. because Max has some incredible pace. Of course, Jim is going to have the DRS, the drag reduction system, that helps it overtake Max to the inside. Here comes Jim. He's closing. He's closing. Where is he going to go? Outside, inside. Is he going to dummy? No, he's committed to the outside. He's going to brake as late as he can. Swoop around the outside. It'll be the inside again for turn 9. But Max is still there. So Jim obliged to give him the room. It'll then again be the inside for turn 10 if he can keep it there. But he's gotten ahead. And the Hash trying to tuck in, find the slipstream. And that is now Jim up into P3 and ahead of Max. But he's coming back at him to the inside of turn 10. A little bit, maybe a contact between the two as Max desperately tries to find his way back through on Jim. And he's not going to be giving this position up easily. A very nice desperate send from Max into turn 10, but just wasn't meant to be. And now Jim can set his sights on Chris in front. And this is now the fight for the effective race lead, because Cyberspace is now into the pit lane. And potentially ruined his race because of it, which is a big shame. And Jim will have DRS on Chris in front. He's used a lot of ERS, the energy recovery system, the electrical energy in the battery. It gives him the extra 140 brake horsepower. Still got 60% of his battery left to go. Max using up a little bit more. But Jim probably just going to try and set up to get a little bit closer through Sector 1. And then set up the move down towards turn number 8 and 9. Similar to where he did it on Max. But he's the second car in the train. Probably the best place to be. You've got the DRS to defend with. And then you've got the DRS to attack with. You've also got the slipstream. And you're the driving seat in terms of getting the move done. So can Jim get this move done? He's a lot closer than he was on Max. And he's got the DRS and he's got the pace. Chris tries to defend. He is going to move to the inside, maybe to defend a little bit, but Jim is closing. He's going to go for the outside. He is committed to go around the outside once again. It'll be the inside for turn 9 if the Williams gives him the room. The Williams is going to give him the room, and the Williams are going to try and keep him on the outside, but once again, Jim is not giving up. He's going to keep it on the inside for turn 10 and try and stay ahead, but Max doesn't know where to go. Is he going to make it 3 abreast? No, he's going to tuck back in, and Jim is going to take the lead, but the Williams going to keep his foot in around the outside of a flat out corner, looking very squirmy, and now Chris on the outside. Max is going to follow him through and take the position of P2. If Max can try and claim the corner, the Williams still going to hang out on the outside, but very intelligent racecraft from Max there to keep it in the right position and then follow Jim through where it counted. And now is Jim and Max both up into the top 2 once again, but Max on the attack this time. Let's see how Jim fares in trying to keep him behind, because Max has burnt through a lot of energy and so is Jim, but still almost double that of Max. So in the DRS then, and the slipstream as they hurdle towards turn 1. He's going to have to go for it towards turn 1. Jim, bit of contact there as he tries to squeeze to defend, but that's all part of racing. No damage done, so Max retakes the race lead. But Jim trying to set up a double cut back through turn 2 and then have the run towards turn 3, but probably just going to sit back and wait for the DRS straight in a couple of corners time. If he can stay close enough to Max, that is, because Max has some incredible pace, so he needs to get it back done quickly, otherwise could cost him. Still looking a little bit wet out there. Not completely bone dry, but let's see. Jim is going to need to push the attack now, because if he doesn't, then Max is just going to close. So now Jim is closing and closing and closing. Does he have enough speed to go for it? He's going to go around the outside once again, breaks late and goes for it. It'll be the inside once again for turn 9, but Max is going to keep his foot and mount the curb over there, and deja vu as they run side by side towards turn number 10. But Max is going to have to tuck in once more. Is he going to go for the outside, keep the foot, and Jim retakes the race lead then? And he needed to do that, otherwise Max is just going to send it back up the inside of turn 11. Maybe he is going to have a look. Jim gives him the space. He's going to mount that curb, but Jim's going to hang on brilliantly to keep that race lead. And he knows how crucial it is to stay in front, because Max is so quick. So Jim holding on so desperately to keep this race lead. He's got 12 more laps of this race remaining. It's going to be hard to keep Max back, but he needs to make sure he can keep it there, drive consistent, find a little bit more pace within himself. And let's see if Max can rejoin and try and launch the offensive. Chris with the fastest lap after Jim would once sent it. The track is always going to constantly improve. Max with a bit of a lock up through turn 1. You can see how much that compromises him through turn 1 and 2. Now through turn 3. Max taking a lot of liberties when it comes to track limits. Denmark with the fastest lap of 33.2 just goes to show how much quicker the track is getting. Of course, completely green, no rubber being let down at all. Well, no rubber in the rain. Rubber now being set down in the dry, so it will constantly improve. But here comes Max looking to the inside of Jim, who's going to come across very late, but Max just going to react in time to avoid him, and Max is just going to claim the corner ahead of Jim, who's going to be forced to back out. Max just sent it under brake, said, nope, I am taking this corner, you are not keeping it on the outside, and complete and utter fair play to him. Jim tried to hang on there. It just wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. But he's going to need to relaunch the attack quickly, otherwise Max is just going to take off. He's going to go. With 11 laps left of this race remaining. Max just drives that car so elegantly, with such aggression and precision. Just hits every apex, gets on the throttle where he needs to, and just gaps him when he needs to. Plays the racecraft so brilliantly, and be as aggressive when he needs to. And Jim has lost a lot of time on this lap, so may start to see his victory hopes start creeping away if he can't do anything quickly. He's going to need to give it everything. Max with the fastest lap of 32.1, so even going quicker despite the overtakes. Raffo up to P4. How has Raffo managed to get it up to P4 as a couple of people now into the pit lane, and Jim is going to lose DRS potentially if he's not careful. The DRS detection point in a couple of corners time. And it is now, so he has got the DRS, so locking into that tow hook, the virtual tow hook. Not a lot going on. Here's Mitch trying to get himself past short markers, which he has done on those hards, which will slowly start to come into their own as the time goes on and they rubber themselves in and start to get a little bit warmed up. And Mitch doing an incredible job. Side of space on the back of Raffo, getting himself past Ratho, who has done an incredible race to get being P4 and now P5, but side of space recovering really well, despite staying out the extra lap on those intermediate tyres. Yeah. But Jim, yeah, he's lost touch of Max now. Max is gone. Max 100% will win this race. Hopefully not to commentators curse it, but he is driving so well. Unless Jim can pull something out of the bag really quickly and hope it's not too little too late. He defended well, but Max's raw pace, just he played it patiently. He knew what he needed to do, waited for Jim to use up too much DRS, and now Max is stretching his legs, stretching his wings, and now taking off with another fastest lap. Ratho into the pit lane though, so he's going to lose out quite a lot of positions because of this. There's a big train going on back here for sort of P10. He's going to strap on, I would imagine, a medium set of tyres. Closest battle on track is Mitch, closing up to Callum Jones. And he is going to have DRS, so Mitch to get himself into the top 5 again would be a remarkable result. And he is closing, he's going to pull to the inside in the Renault. And should have that done by the end of the straight. Yeah, he's going to move in before the braking zone. Down the gears and up into the top 5. 6.5 seconds to side of space is going to be tricky. He's also got a 3-second time penalty, but side of space with 11 seconds worth of penalties. So Mitch could see himself up into the top 4 as well. But short Marcus, as long as he can keep it there, could get himself up a nifty couple of positions as well, as long as he keeps it clean for the remaining 8 laps of this Grand Prix. And here's Denmark sending it up the inside. It will be the outside for turn 14 on the Red Bull. They are going to run side by side for P8. Red Bull keeping it on the outside, going to send it, maybe set up a cutback, but the McLaren of Denmark putting the car where he needs to. Very, very nicely done. But looks as though the field spread is getting a little bit larger now. Foskey, who was driving really well, leading the race at one point, just fell completely backwards after the slick stint. Here's Ratho getting himself up the inside of his teammate. Pretty much a driver swap between the AlphaTauris there. Not much going on in the way of that. There's Martin going very wide through turn number 12. Now focusing on these fresh soft tyres, should be looking very quick to get himself through. The two junior Red Bulls in front of him, and he's going to send that up the inside. Very nicely done. Winmax goes in a little bit too deep, so Foxy going to get himself up the inside. And can now set his sights after Ratho, and he is closing on Ratho very, very quickly, but probably not going to be enough towards turn 8. I say that, he is closing at a rate of knots, about 10 miles an hour in excess of the AlphaTauri in front. But just couldn't quite get the ERS done, and he's used the ERS on the exit of a corner, and in some slightly damp conditions that is definitely not going to help his cause. An extra 140 brake horsepower is not what you want on the exit of a corner. Here's UFO sending it up the inside of the Red Bull through turn 12. The Red Bull trying to keep it on the outside, but UFO claiming the corner, keeping his nerve and saying, well, you can keep it there, but I'm just going to open the steering up and take my natural racing line, and fair play to him there. Short Marcus peeling into the pits, realised those softs are not going to make it to the end, so we're going to go for a second set of softs. That should comfortably get to the end of the race. Foxy now going to have another look at Ratho. Probably not towards turn 1. I mean, maybe. Ratho using his ERS to defend, but now below 10%. So he's going to start conserving ERS. You can see that by the red blinking light. Foxy looking to the inside. Going to absolutely send it into a very fast corner. And Ratho sort of obliged to just give him the space. He said, okay, fair enough. Does not want to turn in because that is going to ruin both of their races if he does that. So Foxy now going to start to score some decent points now into the top 10. It's now with 6 laps left remaining. Max with a 3.2 second lead. Absolutely incredible pace. But an absolutely incredible race so far from Max. Just drive completely faultless. Of course, had a couple of shaky restarts. But for the majority of the race, it's just been driving completely faultless. Pinpoint precision. We'll go on board with him for a little bit now. You can just see how well that car responds to every little movement he does. He just drives on the car with rails, so consistent. You could put a 50p piece on this Apex, it'd hit it every lap. Just drives it so well, so elegantly. And that's allowed him to keep the gap to Jim, who, fair play to Jim, has driven remarkably as well in the wet, putting his car where he needs to, putting himself there. You have to be able to win the race when you're not the quickest car. You know, you're not necessarily going to always be the fastest to win the race, but you can at least try and defend and put your car in the right places to at least have a go, and that is what Jim does, and you have to commend him for that, because it's not difficult defending against such an aggressive driver such as Max. But here is Denmark. He's getting himself up into the top 6 already. And now setting sights maybe on Mitch, who's a couple of seconds up in front. That is Callum Jones, very shaky, or just a bit of lag. But Denmark up to the top 6. But yeah, going back to that, Jim, absolutely incredible driver when it comes to overtaking, defending, putting the car where it needs to be. He tried his best, but the raw pace of Max just got a little bit of the better to him today. But a P2 finish, if he can keep it this way, is definitely still going to be a good set of points going and keep his podium streak going. Another driver that's driving really well has been Mitch from the back of the grid, drove in with complete maturity to get himself up to the top 5. Lost a little bit of touch to the front runners, hasn't really been on the pace there, but he's been quicker than, you know, what is that, 15 out of 20 people, so a good 3/4 of the field. So he's definitely in the top 25% of the field. That is always good. Just had the pace, put the car where he needed to, and drove in with very good consistency. There's Short Marcus on the controller as well, driving pretty well. Was in the shot for some points at one point, has fallen a little bit off that though, having to pit. Yeah, some very good drives up and down the field. Max, of course, just with the pace, with the consistency, doing what he needs to. Jim trying to win, despite not being the fastest car. Did give him an excellent race and tried his best. Chris, again, he's always there. Chris, such a quiet racer. He never sets the time sheets alive. He never, you know, he's not someone you'd necessarily regard as high as Max or Jim in terms of raw pace, but his consistency is incredible, and he's put that car in P3. He wasn't necessarily quickest in the rain. He wasn't necessarily now quickest in the dry, but he's quick where he needs to be. He's quicker than the other people around him, and he's more consistent. He just drives well, and we haven't seen much of him apart from, you know, when Jim and Max are trying to find their way through. But Chris has just driven nice and quietly and found himself in the podium place, rounding off the top 3, which usually would be taken up by Mitch or Harv or people of the sort. But Chris knows very nicely to bring home another podium if he can hang on to it. Side of space in the Ferrari again, very good drive from him. We have a lot of people to commend today, and that is really, really good to see. A lot of people driving well. And overall, it's been a really, really good race. A little bit more dull recently, and that's Martin going around at turn 10 once again, not having the best of races and resetting to track, but hopefully not to get in the way of the Renault of Jim. That would be less than ideal. Certainly, and he's going to spin around again on the exit of turn 12. Again, very easy to do, and that is going to be the Williams of Chris, getting a little bit starstruck and startled because of it. Here's Fosky though, on the back of Kieran Rees. Finally a little bit of action going on for P9. He's going to push the button. It'll be the outside for turn 10 if he can maybe have a little look and get ahead. Actually, the McLaren going to be a little bit more pinched on the inside. Eventually the outside does turn to the better line, but then through turn 11 it's very easy to just keep the momentum around the outside. But the inside always going to be the best one. He's going to try and get the cutback, picks himself up a 3-second time penalty in the process, and Kieran Rees going to hang on to P9 for that one. As we now head towards the penultimate lap, we're on lap 25 of 27. Only a couple more minutes left of this Grand Prix, which has gone from wet to dry. A very, very spiced up grid. 17 seconds of penalties for Kieran Rees, so I'm not sure folks he's going to be too bothered in muscling his way through and risking damage when he knows that if he just sits back and can even pull back in an 11-second gap and it'd still be fine to take this position. So I'm not sure he's too concerned. Of course, UFO on the back of Callum Jones, no penalties either, so won't be too stressed, but always nice to get back in front just in case, especially when Callum Jones 6 seconds is going to be hard to do in a couple of laps, but never say never. Folks, he's getting himself past Kieran up into P9 with a nice easy DRS overtake. As Max now leads us on to the penultimate lap, lap 26 of 27, the second last lap of the race, of what has been a very long race and probably very strenuous for the drivers. Kieran Rees getting himself back in front of Fosky though, having a nice little battle here for P9, despite it not necessarily translating to anything after the timing sheets have finished sorting themselves out. Still nice to see them having a nice little tussle, but Callum Jones just moving out of the way there, it seems, for UFO. Doesn't really want to get in the way of him there, just moved out of the way, said off you go, on your merry way. So Callum Jones not giving that much of a fight. Fosky dropping off the back of Kieran Rees now. It looks as though his soft tyres really aren't coming into their own. He has been on those tyres for 9 laps now, and the drop-off point is around about 6 or 7, about 7 or 8. So he is a long past that cliff. So Kieran Rees his mediums should slowly start to creep to be a little bit better. Max soon to be starting the final lap of the Grand Prix. Let's see where Max is on track, in fact. He is now starting the final lap of the Grand Prix. Lap 27 of 27. Final 15 corners left to go. We'll stay on board with the race leader. towards turn 1 for the final time. Just needs to bring it home. 13 laps he's done on these medium tyres. The slick stint that has lasted for about half the race. We've had safety cars, we've had VSCs. Jim now picking himself up a 3-second penalty. Won't cost him anything, luckily. He's got 7 seconds back to the nearest car, who himself does have a penalty, so he is looking pretty good. But Max only 3/10 down in the first sector, despite being on some very worn tyres and it being the last lap. So he's probably not too interested in setting the timesheets ablaze. Just wants to bring this one home and extend his championship lead once again. Towards turn number 10 then again for the final time, and then 11. He's only got 4 more corners left to negotiate, does Max, and he'll find himself another race win of the season. And now towards turn 13, the long right-hander, completely flat, and then the fast left-hander of turn 14 before swooping through turn 15. He's driven brilliantly, he's coped brilliantly from wet to dry. He's played the strategy so well, he weaves his way across the line. Max takes the win here in France and is the winner of the French Grand Prix. And again, Jim, driven brilliantly himself from P2 to P2, takes second place of today's race. Actually no, from P4 to P2 he's driven incredibly well. Chris across the line, a very quiet drive to P3, and then side across the line isn't going to take it, unfortunately, and takes P4. With Mitch, an incredible drive for Renault from pretty much last on the grid up to P5. A great race, and that sees him take P4, in fact, after Sider's penalties. So Mitch from last to P4, not a bad drive at all. Denmark in P6, UFO now coming across the line, rounds off in P7. Callum Jones in P8, and Foski dropping outside of the points on this final lap. He's got a puncture and is going very, very slowly, and that's going to drop him outside the points. So Short Marcus maybe having a hope of an extra position. Ratho across the line finishes P9. Foski across the line scrapes a point because of Kieran's penalty. But that was a very close call with that puncture. And then Kieran P12, Firkin P13, waiting for Wimax, the last driver, to cross the line. Big lock up. But what a race it was, especially in the early stages. A little bit dull for the last couple of laps. As soon as Max got in front of Jim, it sort of just died down from there. But before that, it really did go to be a very, very good race and a very enjoyable race to commentate on. From wet to dry, my first actually commentary in transitioning weather. 1 point on the controller. That is nothing short of what you could have asked for. Really, really good drive from Marcus there to get himself in at the points. But the Haas, the Renault and the Williams all celebrating, and very deservedly so, after a very tough race in Le Castellet. And they're going to be spraying the champagne. I'm really, really enjoying that one. But it is Max that takes the win of a very, very tough race from pole to the win. But that does not tell the whole story. Jim from P4 to P2. Chris rounding off the podium. And Mitch, an incredible, incredible drive to find himself in a P4. Cider Space P5. Denmark P6. UFO in P7. And Callum Jones in P8. Ratho P9. Short Marcus P10, taking a single point on his controller. Foski P11. Kieran P12. Firkin P13. Wimax P14. Martin in P15. KC in P16, and the DNS were KVDPR, Golden Wolf, Have, and Broke Gorilla. Thank you guys, thank you, really do appreciate it. But thank you for everyone for checking it out and being with me to talk through what was a great French Grand Prix. Definitely not much you really could ask for from France, but they did deliver, certainly, and the changing conditions did so to be very, very tough. But if you have enjoyed, do make sure to leave a like, and if you want to get involved, do make sure to contact the guys over at OBF1. I'm sure we'll be able to find some space. But until next time, guys, I've been Zach Sweeney. I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.